Hello, welcome back to the channel, and we're going to have a grain to glass.
Way back a year ago.
Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is a grain to glass video. So this one is another Boddingtons beer. This is a Boddington Strong Ale from 1939. Mine's come out at 6.2%. The 1939 one for Boddingtons came out about 5.5%. So my attenuation on this one was better than my attenuation on the Boddingtons Bitter, if you've watched that, where I wanted that attenuation a bit more. This one actually got it a bit more. I basically brewed this and classed this as my coronation ale as well, but it's a Boddington Strong Ale, that's what it is. So go and check out the footage of the brew day. We'll come back, we'll crack it open and we'll taste it. Okay, so this is going to be the coronation ale. So the grist is going to basically include pale, well, Chevalier malt for a heritage beer, some wheat, some corn, which is that stuff there. So for heritage recipes in Britain, they used a lot of the maize, the cornflake. Got some Cara, well, crystal, and we're going to use some invert sugar, which I've made here. We've got the salts, we've got the bittering, we've got the Pilgrim, then we're going on to Fuggles, we've got the Irish Moss, and then we've got some more East Kent Goldings at the end there. So we've got a mixture here. The idea, basically, it's to take on an old Boddington's recipe from, I think it's 1939. It's a take on that, and I'm just slightly adjusting it for the ABV and see what we get. So, yeah, bit of a take on a Boddington's recipe from the old brewery in Strange Ways, Manchester. It was a Strong Ale, the Boddington Strong Ale, if you want to have a look at that on the internet. And this is just a take on that, really. Just slight updates for the Coronation Ale from the Bramall Backroom Brewery's Coronation Ale. So, let's crack on. Also, invert sugar. Pretty hard to see in there, in that bowl. But that's homemade. A lot of the heritage recipes from Britain have invert sugar in them. And the idea is it adds a little bit of fermentable sugars. Easier for the yeast to eat as well because it's invert, so you've gone through the process. I made this myself, going through the process of heating it up to a certain temp, holding it at that temp for a certain amount of time. Depending on the colour and the flavours that you want from that invert sugar, it could be up to 3 hours you hold the temperature, so it is quite a long process. And the idea is that it's like I say, easy to ferment, and a lot of these older recipes have invert sugar in, so it does add a little bit of flavour, a little bit of colour, and it's an easy fermentable sugar as well after that process. So that's the invert sugar. Okay, so it's mashing time. I've got the strike water to 70 degrees. I'm looking for a mash temp of 68 degrees for 60 minutes. So what I'll do now, just get all my grains in, add my salts, and then cover it up with the towels and set the timer for 60-minute mash. Just making sure I'm not getting any dough balls now. I think I'm okay there. So time to add in the salts. Salts, just some bit of calcium chloride, a little bit of gypsum, just to get a profile that's basically I also want to bring out the malts in this beer more than the hops. So it's more of a malt forward beer, hopefully. So there we go, salts in, get the lid on, do a 60-minute mash. Okay, so mash complete. So what I need to do now is get the grain bag, strain it, and then get to a boil. Also, I'll take a sample of this so I can have a look at the gravities. Okay, so that's the wort strained from the grain. Quite happy with that colour so far. Yeah, more than happy. So what I've done now, I've got myself a small sample, and what I need to do is get it on the refractometer, get this temperature to about 20. It says it's like an auto correction temp, but I always like to just get it round about 20 anyway, just to make sure. And I'll get a reading of the pre-boil gravity, and hopefully I'm on some sort of target. But it will be having that invert sugar, so that's going to change the actual final gravity on this beer anyway. But yeah, so that's my next step. Okay, boil reached. So we're heading for a 90-minute boil on this. This stuff, if you're wondering, is just protein. So you can stir that in if you want. Or some people actually scoop it off, but it doesn't bother me. I'm going to be using some Irish moss on this anyway, so hopefully break all that protein down at the end of the boil. But yeah, so it's going to be a 90-minute boil. I'm pretty much ready now for the first hop edition. So it's going to have a 90-minute hop edition of Pilgrim and Fuggles. Okay, so first one we've got is the Pilgrim hop. So Pilgrim at 90 going in, and we've also got Fuggles at 90. That's going in as well. Set a timer now for the next hop edition, which is going to be 60-minute hop edition. So 30-minute timer to be set. Okay, so Fuggles, 60-minute, next hop edition, 30-minute. So this is the invert sugar. That what I've done is took some of the hot wort out of the kettle, out of the brew kettle, and all I've done is added it into this bowl with the invert sugar. And the idea now is that you put this back into the boil kettle and it doesn't stick to the bottom because now it's been liquefied. So there you go. So try and put the camera in a little bit better, wouldn't it, Rob? So there you can see that's going to be the invert sugar going into the brew kettle. There you go, invert sugar into the kettle. Bring that back up to the boil now. East Kent Goldings, 30-minute edition. Irish moss edition. Irish moss edition going in. Irish moss, but basically it helps drop the protein out of the beer, so you get better clarity in the overall beer at the end. So it helps drop the protein out of the wort, then helps for a more clearer beer. Okay, so flame out. So the last addition of hops, East Kent Goldings. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give this a bit of a stir, and then give it about 30-minute stand before I transfer it for cooling. Sorry, the wort has been transferred to the cooling pan, and now bottles of ice in the sink, cooling it down to pitching temperature. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. So it's a Boddingtons Strong Ale. It's out of the Let's Brew book from Ron Patterson. It's a 1939 recipe. So basically, Boddingtons had weird beer names before World War One. A was a pale ale, BB was a mild ale, and CC was their strong ale. This is the strong ale CC. C ales were basically ales that are brewed in Manchester at the time. These are the Lees ale as well. I've done the C ale. It's basically just, we're just saying about he was just lucky how I got hold of this. He went to a few years back in Manchester, took a photograph of some Boddingtons records, and he was disappointed that there are a couple of books from the 1980s. Then Boak and Bailey posted something about the difference between Boddy's bitter in the 60s and 1980s, and emailed them. Ron Patterson immediately emailed them asking them when they found the 1960s brewing log. It turns out there are a lot more Boddingtons brewing books, a full set from 1900, in fact, which is brilliant news. It turns out they are in process of moving when I visited the archive and not everything was available. I'm already penciling a trip to Manchester. So yeah, so fantastic. So what's gone in this then? So let's have a look at my log for this. You've just seen the video, but I'll just go through it anyway, what I've put into the actual beer. Totally different than the Boddingtons bitter, put it that way. This one's a different grist. It's going to be a totally different colour. So this had pale malt. I used Chevalier. It's got wheat malt, maize, and it's got some crystal sort of caramel malts, invert sugar, but invert sugar number 4, so the darker one. And then I used Pilgrim for bittering and Fuggles and East Kent Goldings for flavouring and hop aroma, and then that was basically it. It was Irish moss, and then yeah, off it went. So yeah, pleased with that. It came out 6.2%. Really interesting. So let's crack it open. Let's see what it looks like in the glass, in the Boddingtons glass as well. A little bit of a noise there. I put it into the keg. And I put obviously bottled from the keg just because I didn't want any. I wasn't in the mood for bottle conditioning, if I'm totally honest, and I just wanted a lower carbonation, so it was just easier to control in the keg. So here we go. This is the totally different. If you've seen the 1971 Boddingtons bitter, this is totally different in colour. Unbelievably different. There we go. There's the beer in the glass. And that's Irish moss. Has done its job. Happy with that. So that is a dark amber in colour. It looks totally different. It really, really does. I mean, it's nothing like what you'd expect to see a Boddingtons beer looking like. Well, 1939. This is what it looked like. The colouring's on par with the recipe as well. Like I said, the ABV is slightly higher, but I'm okay with that. Just got a bit better attenuation than I did on the last Boddingtons beer I did. So yeah, so it looks okay. Nice off-white, creamy looking head. Aroma. It's really just malt. It's not overpowering malts, but that's all that I'm getting is a malt. I'm getting a sweet toffee, even class like treacle. I mean, that could be from the inverts, it could be from the crystal malt. But yeah, it smells malty. Whereas the Boddingtons bitter, if you watch that video, that was more hop forward. This is definitely more malt forward in the aroma. So okay. Cheers. Definitely maltier than. I don't know why I keep comparing it to the Boddingtons 71 because it's totally different beers. It's got its maltiness about it. It feels like you taste the strength of this 6.2%. Feels like a premium ale, medium body, but lots of flavour, nice balanced bitterness to it. I am really chuffed with this. Carbonation's super low, which I was aiming for. Super, super low. Just really low, streaming up that centre of that glass. Toffee notes, caramel, treacle. It's got all them type of notes. It's got a nice sweetness to it. It's got a nice bitterness to it. It just all seems to work really, really well. I'm pleased with this. I think I'll just, with the other one, I'm going to be probably the base. I would on the other one, the other beer, the Boddingtons, I'll probably use that, and then different hops, different yeast. This one, I think I'm just going to stick to what it is because I'm really pleased with that. I don't want to mess with that. I'd be happy drinking that again and again and again at 6.2. It does remind me slightly of an ESB. That's probably the closest I can say to a beer. It's like an ESB, and it's really quite good. I'm really pleased with it. What I'll do, I'll put the description in the description. I'll put, actually, just go to the Shut Up About Barclay Perkins on the internet and put in the Boddingtons 1939 CC ale, and you'll get the recipe. It's there, and it tells you about the attenuation, the colour, the ABV, everything. So it's probably easiest just to go and do that and have a real good, have a good read about it from Ron Patterson. He's fantastic. Like I say, he's got a few more books, but this one is all about, well, it does historical ales, and there's plenty of recipes for me to go out in here, and I'm really looking forward to it. I will be looking at doing another one very soon. When this video goes out, there's a dark mild from JW Lee's, which I've brewed. Hopefully I'll be tasting that very soon after this video, and I'll put the grain to glass out about that as well. But this is great. I know it's my own beer, but I just can't see where I'd want to change anything on that. I really can't. I just think that's such a nice beer, and it's what a shame you can't get that in pubs at the moment. I mean, Boddingtons, on the last video I explained it, they ceased brewing at Strange Ways in Manchester in 2004. It was taken over by AB InBev, and their beer is like the Boddingtons Draft is only brewed now up in Lancashire, and it's nothing like it used to be. The casks finished in 2012, which is a shame really. So yeah, you're not going to see this anywhere unless you brew it yourself and give it a go, which I recommend you do, especially if you like an extra special bitter type taste, aroma. So it has, it's got them notes. That's the closest I can say about that. It's really, really, really good. I don't know if you can see it. It's hanging around. It's got lots of character. Easy drinking. The alcohol taste, there's no alcohol burn or anything like that, but you just feel, because it's really complex, you can tell it's a stronger beer. It's got a stronger malt flavour. So yeah, I'm chuffed with that. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops